Hello, 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 my beloved spiritual warriors. I am excited for what's to come this afternoon, this evening, and many other places. I am excited of what's to come tonight. I have a very, very dear, wonderful individual here on this platform at the Magic Spot today. His name is Luis, better known as Sancista Brujo Luis. And I am excited for the energy that I just know that he is going to bring onto this spot here this evening, this afternoon. I'm excited to share his energy, his magic with you all. Is someone that I got to know via YouTube. His greater platform is on YouTube. But what caught me from this gentleman is his ability to deliver energy, to deliver essence, to deliver spirituality, to deliver knowledge, to deliver wisdom onto his platform. That's the very first thing that caught me from Sancista Brujo Luis. I have never met him in person, but as a spiritual healer, as a practitioner of West African traditions, Yoruba and Lukumi faith diaspora, and spirituality, being a medium my whole entire life, I consider myself to be a good judge of character, and I consider myself to be someone that can sense original energy, originality, true essence, the spirituality, roots. And I believe that this is what he offers to his viewers, to his clients, to his godchildren, to all individuals that have been exposed to his energy. That's why I feel that he is a dear friend, because it's interesting how spirituality has a way of uniting individuals, even if they haven't met in person, even if they've never really met in person. It's very interesting to me how two individuals can really connect energetically, and that is because at times two individuals' spirituality, their background can connect, their spirit guides connect, the spirituality that they profess, connect. And when you walk in truth, when you walk in essence, when you walk in true divine energy, that creates a bond, that creates a connection, and that creates a level of respect in my personal spiritual experience and spiritual, practice. So without further ado, I'm sure he's already logged on. I am going to invite him in because I can wait. I am eager to have him here with us. There he is. Saludos, saludos, hermano.
¿Cómo está?
Greetings. Bastante bien. ¿Usted cómo anda?
Bien, gracias al Señor.
I am so, my spiritual warriors, you have no idea how excited I am to bring on this gentleman, Luis, Sancista Brujo Luis, onto this, what has been called the Magic Spot platform here, because as I was saying earlier, Sancista Brujo Luis is someone that I unfortunately have not met in person, but I feel, and I bring him on now, and he's listening to me, and my elders, some of my elders, that the majority of them have already departed, they always used to say, when our tongue says lies, spirit will always signal it out and will always, be able to tell when someone is not being honest. But as God, as Nsambi, as Olofin, as Olorun is my witness, as ancestors is my witness, as spirituality is my witness, I honor and really applaud the energy that you bring to your channel, to your Sancista Brujo Luis channel on YouTube. As I was explaining to my viewers here, you're someone that I learned how to respect, because even though we haven't met in person, I can always tell. Now, this is not to make myself seem like God. I'm not God, but I can always tell when individuals bring authenticity, bring originality, bring essence, brings energy, to a particular platform, whether it's in person or in these days, through social media. And we make that
Right.
connection. Another thing that I want to put out there to all our viewers is, when I first started my YouTube channel, which, of course, many of us go through ups and downs and trials and challenges, and we get so busy. I fell off my channel for a year, a little over a year. Now I'm back at it again, as best as I can. But point of the matter is, when I practically within the first year that I started my YouTube channel, which was originally called Tata Lumbanda, which is one of my names in Palomayombe, my practice of Palomayombe, but I just changed it this year through the guidance of spirit. I changed the channel name to just Spiritual Dr. Afi, so everything coincides with all my other social media. Point of the matter is that Sancista Brujo Luis, without even knowing me, without us even communicating, without even us, I didn't even know who he was at that particular moment. He shouted me out, in his channel, and that touched me. That was something that really got me, because in this day and age where there's so much, how we say in Spanish, at least in Cuba, we say, this saying that says, quítate tú pa ponerme yo, when in a time where there's so much competition and rivalry and I'm the one, and who is this, to have someone that don't even know me from a fly on the wall, then yet, as I said earlier, when you know essence, when you know spirituality, I am assuming that his spirituality was able to detect or see that, I was trying my best to bring authenticity to my platform as well. And this gentleman here that I'm eager to, just for me to shut up and introduce him, he shouted me out in one of his videos in his channel, and that really touched my heart. And I said it back then, and I say it now that we are connected here in live. I thank you,
Thank
for
you.
your original energy and for your heart. More than anything, your heart. So,
Muchas gracias, Popo.
no, gracias a usted. Ladies and gentlemen, my beloved spiritual warriors, without, further ado, this is Mr. Sancista Brujo Luis,
Saludo. Saludo, everybody.
what I know, from the little that I know that he is an original from Puerto Rico, and he is someone that has a lot of knowledge of spirituality, spiritism, the practice of spirituality. I just recently learned that I believe that you have a book that you have already written,
Right.
entitled Luz y Progreso.
Exactly.
He's a medium, he's a channeler, he's a Puerto Rican spiritual, he's a practitioner of Sanse, which we will get into to see what Sanse is really all about. And, I always start off by asking all my invitees to just basically give us a little tiny bit of a background. We know you're Puerto Rican, but who is Sancista Brujo Luis before you became Sancista Brujo Luis? A little of your background.
So my background, I am Puerto Rican. I am first generation born here in the United States, here in Massachusetts. My mother and my uncle were the first of my family to migrate from Puerto Rico to the United States. My mother's side of the family are blanquitos. They got the blue eye, they're European. And then on my father's side, they are indigenios, un indio, black hair and all that. So my grandfather was a bit of a racist, because my mother fell in love with my dad, who was indigenous. So he's like, no, we're shipping you to the United States. So my father followed her. My father followed her to the United States, and I was born. That wasn't the only reason. My mother's side of the family is very Catholic, and in my father's side, they were brujos y espiritistas, you know what I'm saying? So these two things didn't clash. So I was born here in Massachusetts in 1969. And when I was born con la telita en la cara. And I had a lot of health issues when I was born. But my abuelita, who was a presidente de mesa, she had a centro espiritista in rural Puerto Rico. She said he's going to have, él va a nacer con los, él tiene los dones. He's going to grow to have the spiritual facultades, the spiritual gifts. And so at a young age, I would always talk to spirits. One of my first spirits that I would talk to was, I don't know if you know what the peri spirit is. The peri spirit is when we see a spirit, the way that that person or that spirit might have died, or maybe how it was, in the past life, it shows itself in our vision to what it looked like. So I remember that the first spirit that when I was a child, and was supposedly my imaginary friend, but his name was Silo. And I always talk about Silo because he holds a very important part in my life. And he wouldn't communicate the way I'm communicating to you. He would communicate to me in sign language. So I would put my hand behind my back and I would spell out words that he would say. And so my mother, kind of got worried, and she said, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm talking to Silo. And she's like, ¿Quién es Silo? Who's Silo? And I'm like, he's my friend. So of course she contacted my abuela, and she said, no te preocupes, when, send him over here to Puerto Rico, and, in the summertime, and aquí lo desarrollamos sus dones. So, most of my summers I would go to Puerto Rico. And that was the only spirit that I saw at that time. Then I had a freak accident. I was 7 years old, and a car hit me. I'm legally blind. So a car hit me, and I remember that I was just stages. I remember that I was under the car, I was on my mother's couch, and then I was in an ambulance. And then when I was in the ambulance, I saw this, I was a little child, and I could have been hallucinating for all I know. But I remember that I saw this image coming through the window of the ambulance. And all of a sudden I said, oh my God, it's Jesus. You know what I'm saying? It's Jesus Christ. But I'm thinking to myself, but he don't look like the white man in Abuelita and Mommy's pictures on the walls. You know what I'm saying? He didn't have the long hair, the blue eyes, nothing like that. He had short hair, very curly. His skin was the color of brown belt. And he spoke to me in a language that I didn't understand, because it wasn't either Spanish or English, but I did understand. I don't know if that makes sense. And ever since then, I started seeing more what we say in Puerto Rico, espíritu bajo astrales, lower level spirits.
Lower astral, yeah.
Yeah, so that's when I started seeing more of that.
Interesting. That's definitely a heck of a way to get, introduced into spirituality or the practice of it, at least connecting with spirits, on that particular level. So being we are both, Hispanic, from the Caribbean. You're from Puerto Rico, I'm from Cuba, and we practice Espiritismo, but there are sometimes some variances, some differences between the practices of Espiritismo that is exclusive to the island, to the land, to the roots of that particular place. So from what you know and your experience, your life experience actually, because my next question is, what's going to be, how long have you been practicing Spiritism? But that's out the window because, since you already said that, because you were very young, you already started communicating with spirit.
Exactly.
What is Spiritismo? Because I know you are a Sancista, and we're going to get to that. But before we get to the actual Sanse aspect of it, for the many of our viewers that do not know exactly what Sanse really is, from the Espiritismo aspect, what is Spiritism through the eyes of a Sancista, through a Puerto Rican aspect of Spiritism?
In Puerto Rico, just like in Cuba, just like in all Latin America, there are very many branches of Espiritismo. And a lot of people confuse all these branches as being one. If you go to La Isla, In San Juan, you will see a lot of Centro Espiritista, but they're more Caldesianismo. Caldesianismo is the branch of Spiritism that was brought by by the aristocratic. You understand, like in Cuba and Puerto Rico, the rich, they didn't have colleges, in the Caribbean, so they would send their children to Spain and to Europe to study. So they brought Spiritism to the island, to the islands, I should say. And so a lot of people think that Espiritismo is just one term. It would be like saying Christianity is one term. No, you have Catholicism, Pentecostalism, Baptism. So Espiritismo, I practice what we call criollo or folklorico, which is similar to, I would say similar to what in Cuba they would practice, which is Espiritismo cruzado, and it has a mixture of the Allan Kardec philosophy, the prayers that we use in the Allan Kardec philosophy, but we also incorporate indigenous spirits, and also African spirits into what we honor and what we, view as the world of spirits.
Exactly.
So that's my grandmother's tradition era criollo, espiritismo criollo, espiritismo, rural spiritism. Creole spiritism, and I remember going to the templos, or los centros in Puerto Rico. There was always an order of how the spirits would come down. And I remember,
Lord, I know. Let me tell you, people. Sorry to cut you off. Let me tell you, people. I don't know. I've been doing these lives from different individuals, magical individuals, since last week, but today I'm like, am I getting ready, for an interview, or am I getting ready for a misa? Because here I am. I was like, I felt so much energy, and you're already hitting on things that are so important to me,
right?
And we're gonna get to that later on too, because of the way things were practiced back then, back in our grandparents' time, versus how it's practiced now.
Today is very
completely different. And I want to get into that later on, and you just went there, and you've just given me goosebumps already, because it's different. There is an order. There was an order.
There was an order of how the spirits would come down.
Exactly.
So traditionally, it would be the spirits de la raíz, de la tierra. Los indios, los taínos, los beíques, los caciques, those were the first spirits to come down. Then after that, you would get the European santos. You know what I'm saying? And after the santos, after the Indians, which were agua dulce, then you have los santos, then los espíritus africanos would come, and it's very interesting, because if you look at that is the roadmap of what the Caribbean is. First we have the indigenous people, the Arawak, los Siboney, los Taínos, los Arawake, and then the European come, and then they bring the slaves. So it would go in that order.
In that particular order, yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
So when I do a sesión espiritual or a velada, in Puerto Rico, we say velada espiritual. A lot of people say misa. Misa is more what Cubans use. We call it in Puerto Rico una velada espiritual, or una sesión espiritual.
Visual or sounds.
Yes, so my indio, mi cacique en cabeza, comes down first. That's one of my protective spirit guides. And then from there, other spirits can come down.
Interesting. Yes, but in Cuba, my beloved spiritual warriors, I hope this is making sense to you, and we'll break it down the best way we can. But in Cuba, we had as well spiritual centers, centros espirituales, and they're still, to this day, they are around still, especially in the outskirts of the city. Outside of Havana. There are some in Havana, but majority of them are outside. And these spiritual centers in Cuba were literally that. Spiritual centers for what? For people that had gifts that have not been developed, to come in and sit down and have these abilities developed through what would be called, los presidentes de mesa,
Exactly.
the presidents of the table. Let's just call it, for lack of better words, because
Exactly.
sometimes a lot of our stuff doesn't have exact translations into English. But
Mm-hmm.
they were the president of the altar, or the president. For those of you that don't understand, the president of the spiritual altars, by which these altars were dedicated to the ancestors, to the spirits, to the
Right.
spirit guides. So then these presidents, which were the leaders, of that particular center, would guide you as a
Mm-hmm.
newcomer, as a newbie, to be able to develop, your cuadro espiritual, your spiritual frame, be able
Exactly.
to develop your spiritual abilities. Then we also had, and they still are around, by all means, they're still are around. We also had, when it comes to outside of spiritual centers, the practice of spiritism, spiritualidad,
Mm-hmm.
by via misas, seance,
Mm-hmm.
in houses, right? But how it's done these days is completely different to how it was done back then. And when I was
Exactly.
growing up, why? I'll tell you this, and for those of you listening that are getting into this new, or that have been around and have been misguided, let me tell you something about how Espiritismo used to be back in the day when I was growing up, which is very exactly similar, if not the
Mm-hmm.
same, to what Mr. Luis, Sancista Brujo Luis, is saying. There was an order to things. There
Mm-hmm.
was an order. You couldn't just go to a seance, to a misa, and just open
Mm-hmm.
your mouth just like that. Back
Right.
in the day, when you were a beginner, you had to really basically stand in the back of the line. And you had
Mm-hmm.
to, basically ask for permission. Like if you were in school, basically like raise your hand, like, can I say
Permiso a
something?
la mesa. Permiso
Yeah,
a la
con
mesa.
permiso a la mesa, and,
Exactly.
the elders, in the room, if they already knew, this is what I guess I want people to understand. I say it all the time, but it's very comforting to have someone else who also have, deep spiritual background to
Mm-hmm.
validate this experience. Back in the day, these people, they knew when you had the gift and when you didn't. I mean, they just
Right.
knew. You couldn't
Mm-hmm.
go there and make shit up. You couldn't go
No.
there and try to, make, I see a light in the corner. Because what would happen was these people would be like, these elders, these grand great espiritistas would be like, okay, so where do you see the light? And where does
Mm-hmm.
that light coming from? And what do you
Right.
see next to the light? And what comes
Mm-hmm.
behind? Because they already knew whatever you saw, they already saw. So therefore, they
Mm-hmm.
would be able to guide you. Number one is to help you evolve and develop that work, that muscle, so to speak. And
Exactly.
when you were not really in alignment, they would just tell you to shut the hell up,
Mm-hmm.
because you don't know what the hell you're talking about. Take a seat. Number one. Number two, in Cuban
Yeah.
experience, which I'm sure is no different from Puerto Rico, back in the day, you used to go to a seance gathering, to a misa, and you used to sit to the back.
Mm-hmm.
The elders used to sit, tenía la mesa blanca, which is what we do
Right.
in Puerto Rico. But in Cuba, we don't sit around the table. We sit in front of it with the two
Mm-hmm.
individuals, with the two masters, let's just say, on the each side
Right.
of the table, and everybody else in front. It was like a school. It
Mm-hmm.
was like a classroom, basically. Like a
Exactly.
classroom setting. And then you would say, con el permiso, con permiso de la boda, con el permiso del mayor, whatever, and
Mm-hmm.
you would deliver your message that you were getting. It would take, for those of you that are into Espiritismo these days, let me tell you, back then it would take years,
Mm-hmm. To develop.
years to develop,
To to
and
develop.
years to be given a seat, years to be given a seat, an actual share, an actual share, because people used to have to sit in banquitos, in little stools,
Exacto. Los bancos. Los
los
bancos.
bancos. Oh yeah, you used to sit in the
Well.
back,
Uh-huh.
in the bancos, and you need to, whatever messages you had. You call yourself a
Mm-hmm.
medium, you call yourself a clairvoyant, you call yourself an espiritista. Okay, you whatever you said, you had to say it from back there, and you
Yep.
would have
Exactly.
to prove yourself to earn a share. I know it might sound ridiculous to many of you, but this is how it was. It would take years for you to prove yourself and earn a share. And then it would take another, certain degrees, I guess, so to speak, to be able to sit next to the altar to preside.
You're right. The table has different mediums of various level of desarrollo, development. So in Puerto Rico, you have la mesa, and then you have el presidente de mesa, which is in the center. Then you have la mediumnidad de mano derecha. Then you have los auxiliadores. And then you might have, but they're all of various different branches of development.
Exactly.
And so it takes a long time to do that. And in order for you to be a presidente de mesa, you have to know all the prayers. You have to know, I don't know, the phrase, in Puerto Rico we say trabajar, laborar las causas.
La causa espiritual.
Yeah, la causa espiritual, which is attachments.
Spiritual cause, yes.
Yeah, or spiritual attachments that might be attached to a person. What a lot of people don't understand, that in Cuba and Puerto Rico, a centro espiritista was not only a place where you would go to receive messages from the spirits, it was also a place, first it would be a place of education to learn, and it would also be a healing center. There would be, you would see there would be times when there would be curaciones espirituales, spiritual healing, santiguando, which is,
like a blessing.
Santiguando, pases espirituales, which is laying of hands, which is like, praying and laying of the hands. And
Thank you. I hope everybody is listening to this so you can keep track, because I'm going to ask certain questions. I believe to know the answer to, and I know that he does because he's already jumping in it. Because I'm trying to draw a story here. Go ahead.
Right, and then there'll be operaciones espirituales, and there's just so many different things. It wasn't just there to only just talk to los muertos. You know what I'm saying? There's a centro could be. It would be a place where it was like, for Puerto Ricans or for Latinos in general, we don't believe in psychiatry. We believe if you got a mental problem, you go to el espiritista. You know what I'm saying? You go to el santero, you go to el brujo. So that's where you would go to consult, to desahogarte, to cleanse, to purify. I mean, it's deep.
It is deep. It's too much to cover, in such a short time. But, just for the gist of it, you said something that ignited a different it lit a different light bulb in my head. The laying of hands. I don't know if anything sounds familiar to anybody listening, but isn't that the same thing that Christians do? Laying hands, which goes to my next question, which I already said it, and I'm not going to keep repeating myself. People, everyone listening to me, my beloved spiritual warriors, I promise you that I stand by my word, and Sancista, is not going to support something that is not true. We don't know each other like that. We haven't spoken. This is not rehearsed. We didn't speak about anything. I didn't ask him what kind of questions I was going to ask him or anything like that. This is authentic. This is raw. This is in the live. Let's talk about how Spiritismo, the practice of it, predates Christianity. Because it predates Christianity. It
does predate Christianity. It is, it's the root of shamanism. It is when men, there was this certain type of men and women who, when they came out of the caves and out of the tree, you know what I'm saying? They started looking at the universe in a different way. They would look at the moon, they would look, and they would question their existence. And so, I don't know if I'm answering your question, but it goes back into shamanism, shamanistic practices that are in all parts of the world, from Africa to every corner of the world. So the way we practice Espiritismo, you're going to see, especially in Puerto Rico, you're going to see a lot of shamanistic practices that come from, if you study. I'm also a Beike. Beike is a Puerto Rican shaman. But if you study the books of Pane and the books of Bartolome, first two books that were ever written in the United States about the study of the Taino people, you would read how the Beikes, the way they would heal, it's very similar to how Espiritistas heal today. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So it's very shamanistic in nature.
Very shamanistic in nature. And basically, you know, the practice of spirituality in this sense, because I have to break down spirituality because you and I both know, especially with the kind of clientele and you know, people that come to us, we know that the term spirituality is used very loosely these days, you know.
Right.
But what we, you know, are calling spirituality, we call it you know, the practice of Espiritismo, which is the practice of spirituality, which is basically connecting with the other side, connecting with all that's right next to us, but it's on the other way, on the other side of the bridge. Just say
exactly.
Spiritism predates, you know, all man-made religions. All man-made religions. Spiritism predates all man-made religions in all the sense of the word.
Of course, you have the Greek philosopher Socrates.
Yes, and Plato.
And Plato, he would talk about spirits. You know, he would talk about spirits and guides that he had. He termed them daimons, you know, which is now the Christian use the word demon from that word. But he would talk about these spirits, and not just that. You in ancient South America and in Asia and in Africa and you know, so it does predate Christianity. And if you read the life of Yeshua, Rabbi Yeshua, Jesucristo.
Let's go.
You know what I'm saying?
Because to me, I don't know if you agree with me, but to me, at least my godfather used to say, rest in peace, you know, my godfather in Palmdale, because my godfather who crowned me in Ocha, in Orisha, he's also deceased. But my godfather in Palmdale tradition, which is a tradition, you know, that comes from Bantu, for all of you that don't know, Jesus was nothing else than a warlock. He was a medium. He was a
medium. He was a shaman. He was a shaman. In the transfiguration of Christ, when he goes up into the mountain
of Olives. Yes, sir.
he communicated with Moses and Elijah, and his robes turned to white. He was a brujo because he cursed a tree. You know, there was a peach tree and he worked causas because Mary Magdalene had siete demonios on top of her, and he cast those demons off of her. So we in Espiritismo, we view Rabbi Yeshua, whether the man existed or if it's mythology, I don't argue that. I'm not going to sit here and argue that. What I'm going to sit there and argue is the teachings of what that man taught, not what Christianity became afterwards, because there's a lot of Christians did many unchristian things. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Let's not go there.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of blood, you know, and they killed in his name things that he would have appalled. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So, anyways, to me, Rabbi Yeshua was a shaman.
Of course he was.
Un espiritista.
Tell me if you differ from this personal opinion of mine, which I did not make up. These are things, you know, I don't, these are things that I learned throughout the years, things that I've learned from my godparent, and my own, you know, interjection of things, you know, evaluating things. And you will agree and, or maybe have a different account. But according to the Bible, when Jesus was about to be crucified, right? Tell me if you agree or if you even have an opinion about this at all. The two individuals that were by his side when he was about to be crucified, in my opinion, one of them represents what would be, it's like the yin and the yang, the positive
I know what
and
you're
the
going.
negative.
You're talking about Gestus, and oh my God, I forgot the other guy's name.
Yes. You know, the yin and the yang, the positive and the negative, the good angel and the bad angel, the good and the evil.
Yes, we all have them.
One was a spirit guide.
We all have them. We all and they've channeled.
Yes, they did.
On that cross, they channeled.
Yes, they did.
The spirit, Gestus and Desmos. There it is. And so one of them channeled a spirit guide, because Jesus was very much a man. Very much a man. In Gethsemane, before he was going to be crucified, he was like, Dios, quítame esta copa, I don't want it. That's a man,
Mhm.
you know, he's gonna
Mhm.
die. I don't want this. I
Mhm.
don't want this. He was so scared that he bled blood.
Mhm.
And on the cross, well, first of all, not before the cross, you can understand that in his whole life, he was tormented by his lower level spirit. We all have lower level spirits,
Yes, we
and
all
that
do.
lower level spirit is Shaitan Abyss, which we
Mhm.
call Satan,
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
un espíritu de bajo astral. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, what you're saying right there, I do agree that those two gentlemen that were on the cross with him were channeling, because you can understand during pain and during suffering we can channel
Yes, we
spirits,
can. Yes, we
and
can.
one was channeling a positive spirit guide of hope while the other one was channeling the spirit of doubt.
Exactly. 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 Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Ha ha. Okay. We're in the same in the same
Hmm.
channel here, in the same page. And I don't want to go all over the place, but you're saying so many juicy things that ignites different thoughts
Hmm.
that I already have, or confirms different beliefs I already have.
Right.
When we are in and for those of you that are probably just starting your spiritual path, or just trying to figure out how to connect with your mediumship or clairvoyant or spiritual abilities, let me tell you, and Mr. Sancista Brujo Luis, I'm sure he agrees. When
Hmm.
we are in need, when we are most in need, when we are
Hmm.
most aggravated, when we are most, feeling at our worst in our life, that is when our
Hmm.
spirituality is closest to us. That is when
Hmm.
our ancestors is closest to us. That is when we are able to pray the most, because if we listen to what the Bible says, which again, I am
Hmm.
not too in support of the Bible, because I know the Bible really was stolen,
Right.
from its origins, okay, from Africa, and it was stolen
It's
and it was
it's
remade. Different
right.
books,
It's a bunch.
different books
I
put together. It's
I tell
different books
people
put together.
it's a bunch of mythology,
Yes,
and there's a lot of beautiful stories. It's
yes, yes,
mythology, and
yes,
I love mythology. I love
yes.
Greek and Roman mythology, but I do find lessons in mythology. You know what I'm
Of
saying?
course there is, of
Eh,
course there is, of course there is, of course there is. And the book, the validity of the book, is not in question. It's how it's
mhm.
transmitted to control the minds, through
Exact.
religion, that I have an issue with.
Of
That's a whole
course.
different subject in its own. But the point of that I'm trying to make is, when we are most in need, that's when our
Hmm.
ancestors and our spirituality is most close to us. And if we see how Jesus was crucified, he prayed.
Right.
People forget that Jesus prayed. And
Hmm.
Jesus, the magician, Jesus, the brujo, in my opinion, or in our opinions, as you agree with me,
Hmm.
he prayed at the closest hour of his death, So
Hmm.
therefore, it is a teaching to us that when we are most in need, that's when we
Right.
most need to pray. When we are most
Hmm.
depressed, when we are in agony, when we lost that job, when we were betrayed, when we lost that child, when we're about to
Right.
lose our faith, that is when we need to call upon our energies, our
Right.
spirituality, because that's when our spirits are closest to us. Not when we just,
Exact.
want that boyfriend, that girlfriend, the wife, the marriage, the
Exactly.
race. No, 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 no. When we are in need, when we're about to lose that house, when we cannot make our mortgage, that's when our spirituality, our ancestors are closest to us. Because
They
that's what
are.
the magician, that's what the brujo,
Hmm.
Jesus taught us.
Exactly.
His experience taught us that in time of need, we pray, we connect,
Hmm.
we connect with our divine energies, right?
Right. Right.
Yes,
It
yes.
is. Yep.
Now,
A lot.
uh,
I'm
go ahead.
sorry. Sorry. Go
No, no,
ahead.
no. Go ahead. No, no, no. Go ahead.
No, a lot of people say, el libro de Espiritista, oh, that man, first of all, that's just a representation of that man.
Of course.
That the painting that we have is of Cesar Borgia,
Okay.
which was an ungodly man. The image that we use for Jesus, that white man with the blue eyes, and
Uh-huh.
he's Cesar Bergio. He was a Spanish family that lived in Italy. His father was a pope. The man had STD. He had prostitutes. He was nothing Christian. But this is the man that we used as our paintings to represent. To me, that's not Jesus. You know what I'm
Of
saying? Or
course
that's
not.
not
Of
Rabbi
course.
Yeshua.
Of course not. Of course not. Of course not. Of course not. What is the job again, my beloved spiritual warriors, you probably think I'm asking questions that are dumb, being that I am also a clairvoyant and a medium and blah blah blah. But this is not my platform. This is the platform of my guest, and I want everyone to have a perspective based on the experiences and knowledges of my guests and not mine. So therefore, what is your opinion as to what is the job of a medium? What is the job of people that work spirituality on your level?
To make this life, this is a very controversial answer, and I believe that there are various levels of existence. Okay, there are some that are of higher vibration, and then there are some that are of lower vibration.
Yes,
and I believe that we are in the middle, where we are materia. You know, our body. We are born to suffer. We are born the moment we're gross material. We sweat. We vomit. We do everything. You know, and life to me, la materia, or living, is a boot camp, a spiritual boot camp to help us learn and to educate to become higher vibrational spirits. But in the vibrational sense, it is a very low vibration, and then it goes lower. So our job is to we learn, like you said, through our trials and tribulations, through our suffering, we're supposed to grow and elevate. So our job as spiritualists or mediums or shamans or brujos, quote unquote, or priests or priestesses or whatever, is to make life tolerable, to give us some form of hope. I believe in Pandora's box, you know, Pandora's box, and we are that hope that's deep in that box.
Yes.
And that we're supposed to spread hope that this is momentarily in our spirit can elevate, you know?
Yes. Yes, most definitely. Most definitely. And, you know, aside, you know, in addition to that, I would say that, you know, as a medium, people think that because you're a healer or you're a medium and of course, we're not going to spend any of our energy and time speaking about the charlatans and the make-believes. That's not even part of this conversation. We're talking about people that really have the calling to be a clairvoyant, to be a healer, to be a medium, to be someone that communicates to the other side. The life of a medium is not an easy life.
It's not.
You know, people think that it's all, you know, a walk to the park and everything is beautiful.
It's not an easy.
Roses. No, it's not.
It's not an easy life. I'm constantly sick. I'm constantly tired. When I work un ser, I'm out of commission the next day. When I read people, when I'm healing people, you got to understand that sometimes we can pick that energy into ourselves. My abuelita used to say, cuando tú, if you want to translate this in English, cuando tú laboras los muertos, tú pierdes tres gotas de sangre.
When you work your spirits, you basically lose three drops of blood. Symbolically speaking.
Symbolically speaking means that you're giving your energy, and so you don't come out jumping. Hey, vamos a bailar. No. You come out exhausted.
No, sir.
This is a life of constant exhaustion. I'm constantly cleansing. I'm constantly purifying. You know, a lot of people think that I'm like, what's that medium, Long Island medium? She looks fabulous wherever she goes. No, I wish it was that easy. It's not. You know. It's a lot on la materia, on our body. And I've seen people that I went to South America. I was in Venezuela, and it's very beautiful because
yes, it is.
There was there. Yes, Venezuela. You know, I went to the Mount of de Sorte, Maria Leonza, God bless her. But I've seen people that with enfermedades, because they have sicknesses, could heal other people, but they couldn't heal themselves.
Exactly.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So
exactly. Which let me tell you, that is such a good Lord. What am I going to do with this man in just an hour? You know, you said something right now so powerful. People that were sick, but then yet we're healing other people.
We're healing other people, exactly.
And the reason I make a point out of that statement is because this is something, what I'm about to say has two sides, right? Because nothing is ever just one color. you know, the coin has two sides, right?
Mm-hmm.
So which side of the coin is more true when they're both there, right? So
Right.
some people might agree, some people might disagree, you know,
Mm-hmm.
et cetera, et cetera. But let me tell you something. There's this belief that people that are not doing as great or as beautiful,
Mm-hmm.
symbolically speaking, as you,
Mm-hmm.
um, should not be healers or should not be this or should not be that. And I am in the middle. I am in the middle of that. On one
Right.
side of the coin, I do support the idea that why would we go to somebody that's worse off than me
Mm-hmm.
to help me? But then on
Right.
the other side of the coin, if we really understand how the practice of spirituality and spiritism really works,
Mm-hmm.
you and I don't know what that individual has been called to do on this earth and
Right.
what the gifts that he has to be someone that is able to heal you, guide you, help you elevate while still not being able to elevate himself or herself, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because
Right.
there's this karmic energy, you know, that
Mm-hmm.
individuals also have to cleanse while they're here, you know. And yes, I have to be a good judge of character. And I don't mean I as me, I mean me, we collectively, we have to be a good judge of character as to
Mm-hmm.
who we go to ask for guidance and help, because we got to make sure that at least that person has his or her shit together. But at the same
Right.
time, we cannot judge that person's position because
Right.
they might have the piece that we need to make our
Mm-hmm.
pie whole, you know.
Right.
So so I mean it's a very very complicated scenario.
So think about this. Imagine, and not to disrespect anybody, but imagine when like if we were living today's mentality, okay, our mentality, and then we enslave this people. We enslave someone from, I don't know, some other country, and so they are slaves, and their gods are not working. I'm just curious of your point of view. Think about it, because our people were enslaved. The Taino people
Exactly.
were enslaved. The African
Exactly.
people were enslaved.
Exactly.
Uh, so they were living in poverty. But through their bones, our spirituality has grown.
Exactly.
I don't know if that's making sense.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
I have gone to rural areas where una bruja, una espiritista, they live in a shack. They don't
Yeah.
have, they
A
have the
witch.
bare necessities, and they live lo más feliz. You know what I'm saying? They got their campo outside with their vegetables, their fruits
Yes.
and all that.
Yes. In the most humble
They have
way.
the most humble way, and so sometimes we got to be careful because we don't want to confuse spirituality with materialism, materialista. Does that make sense to you?
Yes. Yes.
So I understand what you're saying, you know, but
Yes.
I've gone to South America, and I've been to Santo Domingo, I've been to Venezuela, I've been to Colombia, and I've seen Puerto Rico, of course, and I've seen some of the greatest
Of course.
minds,
Of course.
spiritual
Of
minds,
course. Of course.
amongst illiterate poor people.
Of
That
course.
they didn't read this. They
Of
didn't read
course.
this, but they
Of
could
course.
boggle your mind with what they have.
Of course, because we live,
Mm-hmm.
you know, we have to
Mm-hmm.
pay attention to the fact that we live in a very westernized
We do.
mentality, you know. So
Exactly.
therefore, we evaluate, you know, the essence or the
Right.
caliber or, you know, the expertise of a person based on the car they drive, the home that they have, the kind of
Exactly.
clothes that they wear, you know, not knowing that one spirit doesn't wear clothes, doesn't drive car, doesn't pay
Mm-mm.
rent, doesn't pay anything. So therefore,
Exacto.
we are evaluating the person based on material things that the
Right.
spirits do not need. The spirit
Right.
does not need. Who is to say that I am? True story. I'm telling you this right
Mm-hmm.
now. I don't like
Mm-hmm.
to put my shit out there, but let me tell you something. True story. One day I went to do a misa at a house, right? I went to do a seance at a
Mm-hmm.
house for a family, and
Mm-hmm.
I had left that house we finished the misa about 11:30 or so. Back in the day, which is I'm not gonna get there, so we don't go all over the place. I'm not gonna get there, but back in the day, you had to finish misas before 12 midnight. These days,
Same thing.
misas,
Exactly.
there are till 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning. Yo no entiendo, but whatever. So
Yeah, exactly.
anyway, I finished the misa and I left, right, and I stopped at a gas station, and there was this bum, what we would consider to be a bum, right? Someone that's
Right.
homeless, that's out begging
Exacto.
for money, etc., right? And
Mm-hmm.
this bum said to me as I was going to walk in, um, he was asking for money.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on how I see and how I feel, I do give money to
Right.
the needy people, depending if what I sense about them,
What you feel exactly.
if I feel like they're gonna go buy a crack and cocaine, I don't give it to them. But if I feel
Mm-hmm.
that they are asking the money in an authentic, really way because they really are in need of it, I will give it to them, right?
Right.
So
Right.
anyway, I gave him, what, like I said, when I come back out, I'll give you $2 or $3. So I gave him the $2 or $3, and I was pumping the gas. Do you need help? I'm like, no, thank you. I don't need help.
Mm-hmm.
Can I tell you something? Yeah, sure. Tell me something. And basically, long story short, so we don't waste time here, he
Mm-hmm.
basically said, you know, wherever you're supposed to go to tomorrow, don't go because you have enemies waiting for you there that are trying
Mm-hmm.
to X, Y, and Z, blah, 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 blah. And I was like,
Right.
what is this man? Older guy, beard,
Mm-hmm.
very great hair, etc., etc. And I was like, wow. I was,
Mm-hmm.
really taken aback. But I have a spirituality, and based on my essences of what my oracle says when I got crowned into Orisha tradition, and what my Intal says
Mm-hmm.
and all that, listen to everyone, even if it's a
Mm-hmm.
child, because you never
Exactly.
know when I am going to deliver a message to you that is going to save your life. Okay.
Right.
So therefore, it was interesting that person, that in this modern day and age, no one wants to
Mm-hmm.
listen to bums. No one wants to pay attention to somebody that lives what they consider to be in a less, status
Exactly.
level than them. You have to listen to everyone because
Right.
their position has nothing to do with the kind of spirits and energy that walks with them.
Right. Of course. Of course. And I believe that. And also, we also believe that people with or children with mental disabilities, they have they might not have the mental capacity as you and I do, but I had a neighbor who had severe, I don't know how to say the word because I want to use the word that's wrong, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm an 80s child.
No, no,
So
no, no, no. We're open. I'm too. I say.
he had mental difficulties. He couldn't. He was not. But one thing that kid could do, él te leía, bro. He'd be like, Luis, yo soñé contigo. Esto te va a pasar. Blah blah blah. This is gonna happen. Pam pam vino, the way he would say it.
Yes, sir.
And he had disorders in his brain, but he had a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful gift.
Yes,
You
sir.
know.
Yes, sir.
Now,
It,
I
it,
want people to understand, I'm sorry, I want you to understand that Espiritismo does not teach poverty. We don't teach poverty because
no.
we want everyone should live a comfortable life. And some of the
Ashe.
greatest Espiritistas, Santeros and all that, Allan Kardec was a professor, Amalia
Mm-hmm.
Belcan was another professor,
Mm-hmm.
Luisa Capetillo, first
Yes.
woman, wear pants, they lived comfortable lives. We're not teaching that. What we're teaching is that don't place lo material as something that is going to give you spiritual growth. It's good to
Exactly.
live comfortable.
Exactly.
It's fine to
Exactly.
live
Exactly.
comfortably.
Exactly. Because spiritual wealth, material wealth should not
Hmm.
define your spirituality.
Right.
If your level of spirituality elevates you to a level of comfort that gives you, that kind of gifts,
Right.
then so be it. But it
Hmm.
shouldn't be based on that. And it
It
shouldn't be
shouldn't be.
based on because you live in a two-bedroom house, then
Hmm.
you can't help me. No, you're wrong.
Right.
Because somebody lives in a two-bedroom house does not mean that they can't help you. Maybe that's
Right.
all maybe their way, maybe they feel rich living in a 2-bedroom house, while other people that might live in a mansion are miserable. And people living in certain mansion, I've met them, I'm sure you have too.
Yeah,
People
of
that
course.
are rich, right? With Mercedes and BMWs and the whole 9 yards, and they live emotionally, mentally, and spiritually miserable.
Exactly.
So therefore, it shouldn't be like that. Our video is about to cut off. I don't want to lose this video. I'm gonna save it. I want, if you can allow us to come back to you, for us to come back for another 10 or 15 minutes at least, to be able to just get into the most important part about you, Sanse.
All right.
What
Sounds
is Sanse? So, my beloved spiritual warriors, I'm going to log out. I'm going to save this video, and we're going to bring back Mr. Sancista Brujo Luis for a couple of more little bits, so we can get into what he really does, because this is just too much to cover. Okay,
sounds good. Okay.
Lord, I tell you, is there anybody that we have brought onto this magic spot that hasn't been great? Oh, Lord, I tell you, is there anybody that has been on this magic spot with us that has not been great? Everyone that has come here has been so magical, so great. I am so excited. I am so excited. I am so excited. I hope you are too. Are you all loving this? Are you all enjoying this live with Brujo Sancista Brujo Luis? I hope you are. He is just a magical individual with true knowledge. I like to dialogue, and I like to, consult and be in conversation with people that can bring essence and knowledge and help us all broaden our awareness. He is a wonderful individual, and I hope that you are all enjoying this. Let me see if he's back on. So that I can bring him back on. I don't want to waste one single minute. Here. So let's see when he comes back on. Let's see here if he's on already, so I can bring him on. Sancista Brujo Luis, Sancista Brujo Luis. Let me see. Let's see if he's on here. I don't see him yet. Is he on here yet? Is anybody seeing him yet? Because I don't see him. Let's see here. I don't see him. Is he on here? ¿Dónde está? Let's see. Oh my God, I can't believe I can't find him. Let's see. I don't want to log out, so I'm going to send him a message on here. Anyone see him yet? All right. Let me see here. Where is Sancista? Yes, there he goes. There he goes. There he is. There he is.
Connecting to Mr. Sancista Brujo Luis.
Hello.
There he is. There he is. Back. There he is. Awesomeness. So, you practice Sanse.
Right.
I believe from the very little, it's not my area of expertise, that has to in some kind of way to do with Haitian tradition. I believe, I don't know correctly if I'm wrong. What is Sanse? What is the practice of Sanse?
So Sanse is, well, first of all, the word Sanse comes from a Haitian word.
Okay.
The Haitian word for ancestors is Sanset, okay? Spelled with a Z, Sanset. And so it is believed that Puerto Rico, as an island, is a melting pot like the United States. In Puerto Rico, you find Dominicano, Cubano, Colombiano, Venezuela, everybody, okay? And everybody brings to Puerto Rico their traditions, their beliefs, their cultures, and then in the Puerto Rican mindset, we kind of make it our own, I guess, you know? You know, Santeria, you will notice that a lot of Santeria or Cuban has become Santerismo, you know, which is a mixture of Santeria with Espiritismo. Sanse was brought to Puerto Rico. There's no written history of when this really happened. Some say it could have been during the Haitian Revolution, when a lot of French aristocratic families left Haiti, came to Puerto Rico, and with them they brought their slaves. And then some said that, you know, Haitians traveled to Puerto Rico much after. But they say that Sanse came, let's say around the 1930s, when influx of Haitian people came into Puerto Rico during the west coast of the island, which is Aguadilla.
Aguadilla, yes.
Exactly. Yes. So there, the Haitian people were trying to migrate into the Puerto Rican people, and they were starting to go. They went into Centros Espiritistas, and there they started intermingling Espiritismo, Afro-Caribbean Espiritismo, with El Voodoo, and from there was born El Sanse, which is a very small rama. It's actually started to grow, but it's a very small rama, and it has a lot of elements of lo que es the Haitian voodoo, la 21 División Dominicana, intermingled with what is Espiritismo. I didn't come into Sanse. Actually, May 15th is going to be my 20th year in Sanse. I didn't even know what Sanse was, you know what I'm saying? So I came into Sanse 20 years, and, you know, my padrino, may he rest in peace, when I met him in Puerto Rico, he owned a botanica / farmacia, you know, it was farmacia and a botanica at the same time. And at that time I had collares. I still have the collares because at the time I had received the warriors, los guerreros y los collares en la santería. And so he saw my collares and he invited me to a session, and then we just developed a relationship. And, you know, I would work la mesa with him. And then after a few years of him knowing me, he started introducing me more into Sanse. And then I received los bautismos, los puntos.
Yes.
Puntos are where you kind of like, it's like getting baptized in a point of nature.
Yes.
So you go to the river, you go to una cueva, you go to el cementerio, you go to el mar, you know, so you receive a punto of an energy of a misterio or a loa that resides in that point of energy. And so that's my introduction to
which is very similar, if I may interject, which is very similar to what we Cubans would call. It's not the same. It's definitely not the same. But I say similar, and I will explain how I mean it's similar, and you will tell me if you agree or disagree. It's similar to what we call when we do la coronación espiritual, because when we do a spiritual coronation, you know, there have already been certain different seances, certain investigative mass, misa de investigación, to kind of know which is the leader of the tribe, which is the guiding spirit of that spiritual frame, which is what I understand, the little that I do know, because I have a lot of, you know, Dominican, you know, also godchildren that practice the 21 divisiones, 21 divisions, where depending on the number of elevation or number of spirits that you have within your spiritual frame, that's who you kind of sort of, you know, you get crowned, right? You don't get all the points, but you get crowned, you know, betting the number of spirits that are, you know, in your frame. Is that kind of sort of, you know, similar? Okay.
Excuse me. Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. So I received the puntos into Sanse. And it's Sanse is different for every person. It depends on your. In my rama de Sanse, we have what is your. Oh my God, se me perdió la mente. So you can either be ruled by agua dulce, by los espíritus negros, by... Mi cuadro espiritual is very agua dulce. So most of my...
That's why you have a lot of water energy.
Water energy and my spirits are very indigenous. The way I practice my sanse has to do...
by water, if I may?
Yes, I have to be around water.
Because there's water, you know, ever since the Lord, I don't want to go there, but spirit always takes me there with real magical people. My spiritual warriors, this only happens where there's truly magical people online. You know, I can see shit and I can see things in people, and I see water around you, like water. You know,
there's got to be always a river.
You know, very much around you. The energy of water is very much around you. You know, it's very powerful. And it helps you calm. It helps you feel,
it does, of course.
It helps you feel calm even when you are at your most maybe angered or stressed state. You know, the energy of water helps you kind of like compose yourself, you know.
Right.
Definitely.
So so we do receive los puntos, and then your greatest, you have a guía espiritual, which is your padrino, but he's your guía en materia, you know, because your greatest teachers are your spirits. Los espíritus que tú tienes en tu cuadro espiritual, the spirits that you have in your spiritual court or your spiritual frame. And, you know, so I do work sanse, but more my foundation and everything that I do. You have to have a foundation, everyone that's listening. And my foundation, I don't care where I go, whether it's Hinduism or Catholicism or Christian, whatever, Espiritismo, because that is where I build my temple. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And so everything that I do, and when my padrino was teaching me, before he was even teaching me sanse, which I knew him 3 years, he wanted to make sure yo podía trabajar causa. He wanted to make sure that I was desarrollado con las paces espirituales, la clave espiritual, you know, which is automatic writing, spiritual healing, how to orar las oraciones en una sesión, una velada, what oraciones should be said if un espíritu bajo atrás comes down, what to do, you know?
Thank you. People miss that so much. People miss all that, you know.
Right.
And I don't want to come across as unfair to the newbies or to people that are trying to understand what the practice of spirituality is, or people that have already been practicing spirituality the best way they know. It's not to it's not to chastise anyone or tell them that there's only one way to do spirituality, one way to, you know.
Right.
Let's understand that what this gentleman just said is so important to me, because the way I know it to be true in my world, excuse me, in my world of spirituality, for you to be able to call yourself a medium, for you to be able to call yourself a
Mm-hmm.
healer, you have to
Mm-hmm.
be equipped with the
Mm-hmm.
tools necessary to really
Right.
be able to guide an individual. You have a client or a godchild or someone that comes to
Mm-hmm.
you and may have, certain spiritual attachments, excuse me, certain spiritual attachments that might be of lower level vibration. And
Mm-hmm.
you have to know what kind of prayer or what kind of
Exactly.
cleanse or energy you have to bring in to be able to
Mm-hmm.
guide that person,
Exactly.
and it's a combination of things. You have to be equipped with knowledge of prayer, knowledge of
Mm-hmm.
tools, knowledge of cleanse, of herbs. That's why a healer, if you're a healer and you want to heal
Mm-hmm.
someone, you know, and you don't know herbs, or you don't know what kind of herbs, what kind of prayer, what kind of
Exactly.
candle work, then you don't know what you're doing. This does not mean, because Lord, I don't want to be, shot with 100 messages that I'm not validating people. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean that you don't bring the heart. You might have the heart.
Of course.
This is not the question about your heart. This is not a question about the authentic energy that you're trying to bring to the table as a healer. This is about the tools that you have. I'm
Exactly.
sorry, I don't want to call it. The tools that you have to be able to guide someone in their need,
Exactly.
right?
Of course, of course. And that's one thing that a lot of people are before you can jump, you gotta learn how to run. I always tell people this: before you can jump, you gotta learn how to run. Before you can run, you gotta learn how to walk. And before you can learn how to walk, you need to learn how to crawl. And
Mm-hmm.
ese libro de oraciones is not there for pastel lindo to collect dust. You
Exactly.
know, in that little book, the book that I'm talking about is La Oración Escogida,
The Allan
selected
Kardec.
prayers by Alan. Yeah, it's
Yes.
because it's got prayers for when we're doing a sesión, when we're doing a
Mm-hmm.
misa. It's got prayers
Mm-hmm.
when there's a lower level vibration, when a
Yes.
spirit is stuck in limbo or in purgatory,
Mm-hmm.
quote
Yes, sir.
unquote, when
Yes,
someone
sir.
is sick, when someone is passing, in the
Yes,
middle of
sir.
passing, what prayers
Mm-hmm.
to do. So you
Yes.
have to be very knowledgeable, because prayer is our greatest tool,
Yes,
one of the
it
most
is.
important tools that we use in all
Yes, it
cultures.
is. Yes, it
You know,
is.
how do you call the Orisha? With music and with chanting. That is a
That is a
vocal
prayer.
signaling prayer. You know
That
what
is
I'm
a
saying?
prayer. That is a prayer. It
And you
is.
got to know the words. You know, and so before he even introduced me into Sanse, I had to make sure que yo estaba desarrollado. Punto. Period. Point blank in the story. En la hora espiritual,
Developed.
knowing how to run a session, how to detect if it's a lower level spirit, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and a lot of people, it's a lot of work, you know.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And this is where you also have to know
Mm-hmm.
what kind of entities or spirits, walk with you, so that you also know which one to call upon when there's a
Right.
particular situation in front of you. Because, for
Exactly.
example, you have an issue with somebody that's really going through some really
Mm-hmm.
some true battles in their
Mm-hmm.
life. You're not going to call the spirits, of elevated spirits, the nun, or
No.
no.
Yeah.
You got to call your
Un
spirits of
guerrero.
war. You got to
Un
call your,
guerrero.
your warrior spirits,
You
that
got to
are going
call.
to come in to be
Right.
able to fight that battle. Now, if someone comes to us and that individual that comes to us is somebody, that has health issues. Well, we need to be able to call spirits that
On
knows about
your
health,
your
body,
heel.
physicality, so to be able to help that person in that particular area. If you have issues with somebody, if somebody comes to you with issues of court battles,
Mm-hmm.
document issue, legal cases, you got to know what entity you're going to call to be able to help that
Exactly.
person for that particular energy.
And all we are is the conduit where that spirit sits behind us, and that
Exactly.
spirit places their hands on us. We are a conduit, we're a channel where they place their energy behind us, and we transmit the energy to that person, whether it's to
Exactly.
protect them from battle, whether it's to heal them, you know. So you got to know what spirit what spirit's function is what.
Yes, 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 yes. Now let me ask you a question. For
Hmm.
those individuals that are trying to really understand,
Hmm.
mediumship, clairvoyancy, spiritism, the practice of it, of spirituality, right? What is your recommendation for newcomers, for the newer generations that they all want to develop? I know I'm a psychic, I know I'm a psychic, I know I'm a psychic. What is your recommendations for people that are stepping new into this field?
One thing that I do, and I always tell and I was just talking to my Hado about this.
Hmm.
I'm legally blind, okay? I was supposed to be completely blind by the age of 5, and here I'm 50. By the grace of God, I can still see. One thing that I do every week,
Hmm.
even if it's for 5 minutes,
Hmm.
is I exercise my clairs. I
Hmm.
exercise my sight, my hearing, my taste. I'm tasting my tea right now, and I'm thinking, okay, I can taste the cumin, I can taste the ginger, and make mental notes. So what we do is, if you want to build muscle, what do? You go to a gym and you work that out.
Hmm.
So you have to exercise these things. You know what I'm saying? Listen. Because sometimes spirits whisper, and
Hmm.
in today's noisy environment, sometimes you can't hear the spirit. So exercise listening,
Hmm.
exercise feeling, exercise tasting, exercise
Ashe. Oh my
vis,
God.
visualizing, and once you do this, it becomes second nature to you
Okay.
when you do it
Awesome.
so much. You see what
Yes.
I'm saying?
Yes, yes, yes. We're not gonna get with this class here because I don't want to take any much more of your time, and it's too much, way too much to cover. But let's just say if someone wants to practice their because what you're saying, at least in Cuban practice of spiritism, we're
Hmm.
taught that there are different levels of spiritual beings,
Right.
or spiritual
There are.
healers, or
Exactly.
not everyone hears, not everyone sees, not everyone feels.
Exactly.
Those are
Right.
levels, those are ranks, right? Some people
Exactly.
are healers, or they're spiritistas.
Right.
They're clairvoyant, which means that their clairvoyancy, that is another word that has been used too loosely. I'm a clairvoyant. Do you see with your eyes? Because if you don't
No.
see with your eyes, like we're
Yeah.
seeing each other right now, then you're
Right.
not a clairvoyant. You might
Right.
be
Right.
someone who has developed their auditory,
Uh-huh.
spiritist
Uh-huh.
abilities, or you have developed your sensory abilities, be able to
Right.
feel, to sense, or your
Mm-hmm.
messages just gets placed in your mind, and you're able to
Mm-hmm.
feel, hear things in your mind. That's a different level.
And then you see the spirit not with the physical eye, but with el ojo de aquí. You know what
Now,
I'm
the third
saying?
eye, with
So
the third eye, with the third
it,
eye
it
chakra.
comes with
Yep.
all the other senses. You know what I'm saying?
So if someone, let's just say, wants to develop because you say you have to practice these different things like you do. If
Mm-hmm.
someone wants to practice their auditory or their sensory, or
Mm-hmm.
what kind of techniques could they use to be able to practice these things?
Since very little, and I hope I'm going to answer your question. I hope I answer your question. Uh, since very little, I always question the energies around me. There was a
Mm-hmm.
blackout not that long ago, and I don't like to smoke inside my house, so I went
Mm-hmm.
outside, and it was very dark, and I'm sitting outside smoking a cigarette, and all of a sudden I felt a presencia
Mm-hmm. A
around me.
presence. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so in my mind, I said, is it material or espiritual? Is it
Mm-hmm.
material or is it
It's
spiritual?
spiritual.
Material, is it a person walking down the street, or is it not? And my senses, my body told me, no, it's not a material being. It is a spiritual being. And then I calmed down and I started feeling my heart beat
Mm-hmm.
faster. I
Mm-hmm.
started, my hairs behind, I felt uncomfortable. I was paying attention to my body,
Your hair's
my
behind your neck.
yeah, and I'm paying attention to everything, and all of a sudden, and I'm not a runner. You can whoop my butt, and I'm gonna stand my ground. So I'm looking around as best as I can because I'm blind, and I see behind this tree, I see this shadow, and I look,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, am I seeing what I'm seeing? Because You never get used to it. And I'm going to tell you another story. You never get used to it. So I'm like, am I seeing what I'm seeing? And then when I noticed it, I felt rage. It was like a shot of rage into my heart. And I started, en el nombre del Padre, Hijo, Espíritu, Espíritu, yo te veo. En el nombre de Dios, tú no puedes cruzar. You cannot cross this area. You know what I'm saying? And then the energy kind of like backed off. That was my defense mechanism to fight. And then I said, no, let me calm down because maybe it's a spirit that might need my help. My point to you is we are born, every human being is born with, since we are little, we're born with, what's that, when we're hungry. When we're children, we know when someone touches us, when it's a right touch or our body sends these things into our body, and we need to develop that. Somewhere down the line, we've lost that. I don't know if I'm making that sense. If I'm making sense. And we need to develop that, you know, to pay attention to our bodies 100%. I have read so many people, that have come to me and said, you know, this brujo did me this, blah, blah, blah. And I've told them, I said, I bet you, I'll give you this reading for free if in the back of your mind, when you went to that person, something inside you said, be careful.
Exactly.
Abúsate. Cuidado. Abúsate, cuidado. Be careful. And you ignored it. You know what I'm saying? Because that's the way the spirits speak to us.
Exactly.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Develop that. And the more you listen to it, the more you grow with it and the stronger you get to receiving the messages.
Exactly. And that's the intuitive muscle, you know. That intuition muscle, you know, needs to be exercised. Because it's almost as, and what I want people to understand, based on what Brujo Sancista Luis, you know, is saying, Sancista Brujo Luis is saying, we go to places and sometimes something is telling you, I don't feel like going there today. But you push yourself to go there. And then when you go there, something happens and then you're like, I knew I should have never been here. Well, you didn't pay attention to that sensory, to that spiritual sensory that's speaking to you, and you're not validating your inner spirit that's already speaking to you through your sensory, you know, spirituality, right? Or a crazy, for lack of better words, a crazy thought comes into your mind. And you're like, why am I even thinking that? Oh my God, that is so crazy. I'm going crazy. Are you really going crazy? Because when you get there, that thought that you really had, it's going to happen out. It's going to get carried out. So you have to be able to strengthen those muscles by validating that sense, that intuition, that feeling that you have.
I went to a fiesta de Santo, you know, in Sanse, and it was in honor of Belia Belcan, San Miguel.
Yeah, Miguel Belcan.
And I remember, Belia Belcan, and we were there, and we were all praying. It was a big place. We were all praying, and they had the drummers ready to play. And as we were praying, I call it my ojo de brujo, or my spider senses, like Spider-Man. My spider senses started kicking, and I felt this like, danger. And then something said, Luis, salte de aquí. Luis, salte de aquí. And I'm like, why are my spirits saying this? We're in a place of sacredness, we're praying, blah, blah, blah. So anyways, we did the whole prayers, and I looked at my ahijada and I said, listen, this feeling is so strong that I'm going to leave. And she goes, no, but the drummers, los tabales are going to play, they're going to call the los misterios. And I said, no, this is so strong, this urge is so strong that I need to get out of here. And so I left. I remember I went to a Chinese restaurant, I had some Chinese food, and then I called her. I said, Ahijada, ¿cómo tú estás? And she's like, ay, padrino, you don't know what happened. She goes, and I'm like, ¿qué pasó? She goes, aquí se formó una pelea, a big fight. And I said, what do you mean? And she goes, yeah, people started drinking, and they were putting beer cans on the altar. The person who was doing the fiesta got insulted. They all started rumbling. The police are here.
Oh,
and
hello.
I was listening to my spirits. You know, I don't like to be around. Para mí eso es charlatanismo. You know, that's nothing to do with Espiritismo. And I felt in my energy, this does not feel right. You know what I'm saying?
Of course.
And so I left.
Of course, you have to pay attention.
I remember I went to a fete Afete is a voodoo ceremony to the Gede spirits, and I had gone with my hijados, and I felt it was a beautiful ceremony. I go to one in Boston here, and I felt these eyes behind my back. They were tirándome puya, pa, 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 pa. And I kept looking behind me, and there was these
instigating.
Three Haitian men, you know, big dudes. And I said, estos son bokors. Bokors are sorcerers, you know? And so they're drinking, and you could see that they were planning or plotting something. I don't know what happened, because I said to my hijados, you know, the spirits came, yo los saludé, my spirits of voodoo, and then I said, vámonos, we need to get out of here. And they were like, we're all, when we left, it was very interesting, because when we left, we all said it was the three guys behind us. We all picked up. And so what happened after that, I don't know. I can't tell you, because that was in Boston, but I listened to that, you know?
Yes. You have to listen to your intuition.
Another thing that you were saying earlier is a lot of people think this is easy on la materia. I had a client who was from Trinidad, and he had a spirit. He had a spirit that was becoming making him think suicidal thoughts. So I had gone, we were doing sesiones, blah, blah, blah. I was trying to levantar esta causa, trabajar esta causa. I could not. This was one after the other, after the other. So after a couple of sesiones with this guy, I'm like, this is too much. I said, you know what, yo voy a bajar Papa Candelo. Let me bring down Papa Candelo.
Fire energy.
So Papa Candelo comes down, okay, and Papa Candelo said, you're lying. Tú estás mintiendo a la casilla. And he goes, no, I'm not. He said, you're not telling my casilla something. There's something under that stair that you're not telling the casilla. What do you have under that stair? And the man se palmó, you know. He goes, what do you got under there? And so the man opened it, and he had a prenda de la religión, palo, you know. And so I came out of it, and I looked at the prenda. I don't have licencia or authority to work that. So I said to him, where did you get this prenda? Why didn't you explain this to me? And he said, you know, I didn't think nothing of it. I said, and so my hijado said, listen, Papa Candelo says that he has not fed that spirit in that prenda. And I said, when was the last time that you fed that spirit, or your padrino or whatever? He's like, it's been like 4 years. And me and my padrino are out. We don't talk no more. And I'm like, well, that spirit in that pot, te está consumiendo a ti. He's consuming you. I don't have the authority to work with that, my friend. So I'm going to find a tata for you. That, you know, in the Boston area that will help you with that. But you should have told me that. But after that, that man didn't, you know, in sesiones we're supposed to break bread. Pan, you know, un cafecito, something. That man, ni un pan me dio. We were driving home. It's 45 minutes from Boston to where I live, which is north of Massachusetts. And I was in the car, and I felt drained, and I was like, Giovanni, which is my godson, Giovanni, para un McDonald's, Giovanni, para un Burger King. He's like, Padrino, there's nothing open, there's nothing open. And I was like, it was like an anxiety attack, and I can feel my spirit being ripped out of my soul. And yo dije, Dios mío, I'm dying. If I'm going to die, Papa Dios, let it be in my bed. Por favor, Papa Dios, let it be in my bed. So we finally got home. He helped. I'm a big dude. I'm 6 feet tall. He helped me into my house. My espíritu me dijeron, go to the nevera and guzzle down agua naranja, orange juice. So I went into that refrigerator. It was like a diabetic coma. I drank that orange juice. Then, quítate la ropa en para el baño. Vete en el baño y despójate, you know, you know. And I started cleansing.
Understand, for those of you that might feel lost, sometimes, even if you're not a practitioner of West African faith, or Espiritismo, or Sanse, or Palomayombe, or any of the different variation of West African traditions, you can go to a place, be at a particular environment, and pick up an energy that is rejected by your body, by your mind, by your spirit, by your mind, by your inner, by your inner soul. It's rejected, and it'll ignite. It'll definitely throw like a rush, in your body, and
Exactly.
it'll deplete you. It'll drain you. It'll make you feel fainty, like you're gonna faint. It'll make you want to vomit. It'll make you
Yes.
want, like you're lightheaded, that you're about to fall on the floor. And that's because you have picked up something in that particular place, or from somebody that's near you, okay? That you have been sensitive to that person, and you have been expunged to that vibration, which happens to many empathic individuals, So you have to be very cautious. And this is why you have to strengthen your energy, your spirituality, so that you have a certain protection, a certain guard, a certain shield that's able to protect you when you go to places that can expose your energy to the vulnerabilities of the darkness that's there. Which leads me to the next question. Why is it, because I tell this to people all the time, and I want everyone to hear this from a different mouth, from a different perspective. Why is it that we have to be very cautious when connecting with the spirit realm? We have to be very, very cautious with connecting with the spirit realm. Sometimes there are spirits, this, I know you know this for a fact, that they can present themselves as spirit of light.
Of course.
They really are spirit of darkness, so therefore lower level vibrations. You have to be cautious.
Right. You can attract bulones, you can attract atrasados, and you can attract what we say in Espiritismo, pseudo sabios, which act as wise spirits. They act as wise spirits, but they're not very, if you study on what they're saying, they're not very wise in what they're saying. But I'm sorry, what was the question again?
Why is it that you have to be cautious when connecting?
You have to be cautious because we attract more when we are opening the world of spirit. When you open that door and you're inviting a spirit, they can all come. You know what I'm saying?
They all come.
They all come, and they all come with their craziness and their mess and their past life traumas, whatever it may be. And so you have to shield yourself with prayers, with protection, with cleansing. Do you see what I'm saying? And I've been to sesiones where when Abuelita, I've never, in Puerto Rico, I never saw that, because I just saw, they would laborar la causa. It was, sometimes you'd see un espíritu bajo astral, they would throw themselves on the floor. Yeah, and they would make a circle of protection, and they pray and they cleanse over the person. But I've never seen un espíritu physically try to hurt another materia until here in this country, where they're doing sesiones, and these spirits they jump and they physically attack another person. Spirits should not. We always say cuidado con la materia. You know what I'm saying? When that happens, that's spiritual possession. It's different than spiritual mounting.
When spiritual entities come down, they are not supposed to disrupt la materia, meaning the horse, meaning a caballo, meaning the person that is voluntarily serving as a vessel. They're not supposed to disrupt or hurt, that vessel.
And you can tell the fruit. How does the saying go? You can tell the tree by the fruit it bears. An espíritu that a medium brings down is often what they are deep down. Does that make sense to you? Or in that moment in their life, if they're going through some anger, if they have some frustration, they can attract that type of energy and manifest that type of energy.
Which is why, if you will allow me, I'm inviting you, but with my guests, I always say this is your platform, not mine. Because you're the guest, so this is your time. But let me interject, if I may. Which is why I want everyone to know that you have to be very cautious with the arguments that you have with your significant other, the arguments that you have with your family members, the arguments that you have at work, the different disparities and different things that go around you. Why? Because even though we don't, my intent and Sancista Brujo Luis is definitely, and I'm here speaking for him like he's not here, right? It's not to create this horror movie type of, Hollywood type of bullshit, but, you have to be cautious. Why? Because you don't know who has been, influenced by an energy that's making him or her act in a certain kind of way. What some
Exactly.
people are really influenced by an energy that is not really them. And sometimes if you really consult and connect with your inner spirit who always knows the truth, you would know that that person is acting in a way that you don't know them to be. So if that person is acting in a way that you don't know them to be, why are you feeding into it? Why are you making
Mm-hmm.
that fire bigger than it is? Why are you allowing that argument to get bigger than it should be? Why are
Mm-hmm.
you allowing there to be a separation between you and your significant other, or your mom or your dad or your children,
Right.
when you know that there's an energy that is influencing that person to be the way they are? Now,
Mm-hmm.
why it could be ancestral, it could be karmic, it could be something that they
Mm-hmm.
picked up on the street. It could be
Exactly.
a so-called best friend that they have, as a sponge, picked up that energy from them and make an act a certain kind of way. And they don't know that, because obviously they knew they would do something about it. They don't
Mm-hmm.
know that consciously. But you, as a healer, or as a medium, or as a clairvoyant, or as a spiritist, or as a practitioner of spirituality or clairvoyant, you should be able to say, wait a minute. I want to get mad
Mm-hmm.
from what they just said or what they just did,
Right.
but this is not who I know them to be. This
Exactly.
has to be something. Or
Mm-hmm.
it could be through you. Someone might be wanting that you are not good enough for that person. Somebody might be desiring, praying for, because one thing about prayer, let Mr. Sancista
Mm-hmm.
Brujo Luis clarify this.
Mm-hmm.
There are prayers for good and there are
Mm-hmm.
prayers for bad. People, don't get it
Right.
straight. Don't get it
Mm-hmm.
wrong. Just because it's a prayer does not mean it's always good.
Of
There are
course.
prayers for good and there are prayers for bad. Somebody could be doing a prayer so that you can lose your house. Someone can be
Mm-hmm.
doing a prayer so that you can lose your relationship. Someone can be doing a prayer so that you lose your job. So therefore, you don't know how it's going to play out. And sometimes it's through you. Your vessel is strong, so you're
Mm-hmm.
protected. But when you release that energy, your child might get it, and that's the day that you got into an argument with your child. Your
Exactly.
husband or your wife might get it, and that's when you get an argument with the husband and wife. Your mom or your dad might get it, and you get into into it with your brother, your mom, and your dad. So this is why we need to understand how spirituality really works.
Right.
Spirituality exists. Don't let people fool you. Spirituality does exist. Mr. Sancista Brujo Luis, what is the legacy that you want to leave behind for your godchildren and everyone that has followed you and continue to follow you? What is your legacy goal?
My goal is to preserve what our ancestor Tainos left behind and
Ashe.
what developed after that, what changed and transformed, which is what became Espiritismo Criollo. Espiritismo Criollo is a dying, it's a dying legacy,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not just
Ashe.
in the Caribbean. My partner, he was Shinto, and they have their form of spiritualism in Japan, where now people don't go to the mediums, they go to the sorcerer or the witch
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. So
Mm-hmm.
my legacy is to help people develop their spiritual faculties,
Mm-hmm.
to be able to communicate with the world of spirit, to cleanse, not just in order for us to be a healthy species, we have to be healthy mind, body, and soul. You see what I'm saying?
Ashe. Ashe.
And we have to exercise, we have to educate our mind, and every day I have to wake up and brush my teeth, because I wash my body. I have to cleanse my body because
Ashe.
my spiritual body absorbs. The moment I walk
Ashe.
outside that house, it absorbs
Ashe.
energy. So I have to
Ashe.
cleanse.
Ashe. Ashe. Oh my God, what you just said right now is so magical. My beloved spiritual warriors, we have to
Hmm.
bring Sancista Brujo Luis back on in the very, 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 very near future, because
Thank you.
there's so much to cover. What he just said right now is so magical, because do you not know,
Hmm.
spiritual warriors, that depending on how you have your house, depending on
Hmm.
how you have your body, is the type of energy that you are going to attract. It's
Of
the type of
course.
energy that you're going to attract. If you have pile of shit all over the place,
Your
if you
house,
have different things, that attracts vibrations and energies of lower level
your
frequency
house,
that
your
will
house,
create a mess. Yes, sir.
exactly. Your house, the way you present your house is what's inside your brain, what's inside what
Hmm.
and that is also the energies that is around you. Like attracts
Yes.
like. A
Hmm.
flower attracts a butterfly, like a pile of shit attracts a fly.
Hmm.
So we have
Yes,
to
sir.
not just take care of
Yes.
ourselves and our mind, but also our
Hmm.
surroundings, our home, and our environment.
Hmm. Which is why we have to cleanse the house, and we don't
Yes,
necessarily mean the floor itself, but literally the house,
the
energetically and
house.
spiritually. You have to cleanse the
Hmm.
house. You
Exactly.
shouldn't have piles up because why? Lower level vibrations love that stuff.
Exactly. Oh,
Lower level
yes.
vibration love piles, love shift, love mess,
Hmm.
love disorganization, and they feed off of that.
Exactly.
You invite lower level vibrations if you
Right.
have a disorganized home. Lower
Exactly.
level vibrations will stick to you if you have a messy car. They're
Hmm.
driving with you wherever you go. That's why you are intelligent. You have a
Right.
gift, but you go to that meeting or you go to that, business encounter and it doesn't work because the energies that just got off the car with you have been feeding you vibrations
Exactly.
that doesn't allow you to stand in your light, doesn't allow you to stand out, even though you're intelligent, you have a knack,
Hmm.
you know what you do, what you practice, but it doesn't allow you to stand out.
Right.
You have to do that. May I tell you something, Mr. Sancista Brujo Luis? All through this live, the last one and this one, I see, a lady, an older lady. I
Hmm.
don't like to talk about what I
Hmm.
already know. You already spoke about your trajectory and your
Hmm.
history. We know that your grandmother, is someone
Hmm.
that was very influential in your life,
Hmm.
in your spiritual development. But, since you already spoke about her, I'm questioning my spirit right now. Could this
Hmm.
be the same lady that I am seeing? Why? Because I see a house, and in the back of this house, I see like a un bohío, like a
Hmm.
shack. I see like
Hmm.
a shack or un bohío, and
Yeah.
behind the shack of the bohío, I see like mucha como un monte,
Uh-huh.
how do you say? Oh my Lord, I'm forgetting my English already. Un monte is
Okay.
people
Wooded area, forest.
wood. Yes, yes. I see woods. A lot of trees, and I see this woman, this older lady, picking up
Hmm.
herbs, picking up trees, and I see
Hmm.
a small child, which I believe in my heart, in my spiritual heart, that represents you. And you're by her side.
Hmm.
Either helping her or just being there. Picking up, I don't know if you were very playful or
I was
mischievous,
mischievous. I was
Yes,
mischievous.
yes, because
Really?
that's a child that I see. And I
Yeah.
see this child by this older lady, picking
Yes.
up trees and herbs, different herbs of different remedies and medicinal things, by her. And she's
Hmm.
standing by your side, this
Right.
lady, this shack or this bohío behind this house, and behind this house, this monte. Does that make any sense
So
to you at
yes.
all? Or am I looking
So
here stupid?
no, no. So abuelita vivía. I come from rural Centro Comerío. Comeríos is the center of the island, and so my grandfather he built a house, and it was far away from everyone else. I don't even know how they lived in this area. It used to freak me out when I would go to Puerto Rico, because the neighbor was 2 miles down the street. But behind this wooded house, and it had a whole bunch of rooms, una casita de madera.
Mm-hmm.
And behind that house, I remember me and my cousins would go into this wooded area. I have to close my eyes because there was banana trees, there was everything there, and she had her herbs and she had
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
montañas.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever I go through a dark night of the soul,
Mm-hmm.
I pray.
But was there this bohío or this shack
Yes,
or this?
yes.
Okay.
This shack was her
Mm-hmm.
centro. It was her centro. It
Okay,
was
I'm happy
she.
now. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
she had a house, and then she had a shack where they would cook because they had a shack, and then she had una casita where it would be. That was her centro. you know, and that's where they would go and work. And then, of course, the mountains behind there.
There we go. There we go. And what does San Martin mean to you? Because
San Martin,
because
Luz.
I've seen ancestors by your side, and they say San Martin. And basically, what I really want to say in this live with you, and I'm sorry that I'm getting personal with you, but I just want to validate your energy. I want to validate your spirit. I want to validate your essence. I want to validate what you're bringing into this live here today. And this is my way of validating you by allowing my spirit to connect with your spirituality. And it's saying that your magic started in the Bohío. Your magic began at Bohío. And now I see San Martin, and then I see a male person, a male older person, you know, next to you, and it says San Martin. San Martin is an energy that walks with you, that you pray to, that you've gone or pray to. I don't know if you go to church or not, but you go to church and you pray to San Martin because this San Martin was somebody that your ancestor, a male older person, prayed to or venerated this energy.
So San Martin was my abuelito's patron saint. He's in the window, and I got the big one. And abuelito era un charlatan, you know, charlatan not in the bad sense. He had the gift, but he used to love to frustrate my grandmother as best as he could. He was a jibarito, you know, and el santo de devoción de él was San Martin de Porres. That was his patron saint. And my abuelito had the dones, the facultades too, but he was too busy tomando. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Le gustaba tomar más, you know? Than work la mesa. Yeah.
What do you believe, Lord, I didn't want to go there, but let me go back. Let me focus myself. What do you believe, so our viewers can get this from you, from Mr. Sancista Brujo Luis? What do you believe that we all should be learning from this coronavirus at this moment in life?
Wow. This is a very hard question, because during this coronavirus, I've been tested very hard. And it was predicted by a medium before this happened. You know, on one of my ahados told me to, you know, go get checked because, you know, I've been having a lot of headaches. So I had gone to a santero in Boston. Beautiful Cuban guy. I have a lot of Quintana. I have a lot of respect for him. So I went to him, and then he gave me how do you say that? Regación de cabeza, and he cleansed me and all that.
Head blessing.
Then I went to an espiritista, because un cura no se cura el mismo. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Doctor cannot cure himself.
Yeah, so I went to an espiritista, and this espiritista, a beautiful Puerto Rican lady, she said to me, en esto tiempo, you're going to be tested. Your spirits are going to test you a lot, but you're going to be betrayed by somebody. You're going to be betrayed by somebody, and you got to be careful that you don't get sick. An illness is coming, a very strong illness. And so I'm like, okay. So yes, the betrayal did happen. And then, of course, the coronavirus came, you know. I don't know if I'm answering your question, but what should we learn? Oh my God, that is so hard. That's the hardest thing, because I'm still trying to learn. You know, I've gone back to being alone. I've become this hermit again, where it's just me and my dos perritos in this house. I haven't seen a person in 30 days. So the people that I do, my clients, is through the phone. So I've become this hermit where I've gone back to studying and reading spirituality and going back into nature and really paying attention to la naturaleza, really paying attention to the rivers behind me and the trees, and laying on the grass and looking and understanding how small I am in this universe, and that we have to have faith and hope. You know, Pandora's box. I'm laughing not because I'm making fun. I'm laughing because you're validating what so many different spiritual warriors, healers have said during these lives. The fact that we're going back to ancient times, we're going back to roots, we're going back to the beginning, we're going back to how things used to were. We have to connect with the universe. We have to connect with universe. We have to connect with nature. We have to connect with the simple things that we took for granted. And you're saying that also. And
So
my
you see,
mother,
my friends, no one,
my,
no one has made a mistake. Everybody agrees with
no,
what
my mother, my mother was the strongest part because my mother said to me, "Imagínate, nene." She said to me, "Imagínate, nene." Una, how do I say it in English? Imagine me, 70 years old in Puerto Rico, no light for a year and a half, no water. I had to go back to when I was a little girl, you know, and you got your light and all that. So yes, there's this virus out. Take care of yourself. Be careful, but don't forget that there's life out there. Go out into nature, and I love la naturaleza. I need to be near nature because if I don't, me vuelvo loco. So every day, 3 times a day, I take my dogs and we go into the woods, into the river, and under a tree, and pray and listen to God and the world, the spirit around me.
As long as you're close to water and you're close to nature.
Exactly. I need to be around water.
As long as you're close to water and close to nature, you're
exactly
fine. And as long as you have that big, humongous, tall warrior, cacique,
Exacto.
standing by your side, he's a cacique. He wasn't. He was a cacique. He was a leader. Leader of a tribe. By your side, you'll be just fine. Will you allow us to bring you back sometime in the near, very, very near future?
Definitely.
Next month.
It was an honor.
It's just so much here going on. And I know it's late in the East Coast. You're in the East Coast, and I don't want to keep you up any further. I don't want to abuse your time. But I, myself, and I hope all my spiritual warriors are so grateful for your dedication and your contribution,
Thank you.
To this life. How can people find you?
So I'm the worst. I always tell people I'm the worst person to promote myself. YouTube. I haven't done a YouTube chat. I haven't done a video since a month because I need this time for myself.
Exactly.
But I'm on YouTube pretty much, and I'm doing a podcast. It's called Boricua Brujos, and so you can go check. Yeah, you can go check that out. Brujos spelled with an X at the end. And so we've been doing a couple episodes. I haven't done an episode in 2 weeks, but we're going to go back into doing more episodes. So pretty much on YouTube and on my podcast.
Yes. I'm going to bring you back. You got to allow me to bring you back at least next month. You got to allow me to bring you back because you're so valuable. You are invaluable, to all of spiritual practices. We have to talk about different protection things that people can do during this time.
Exactly.
I believe somebody said here already in the live that you did some Florida water sanitizer, kind of thing, so different things that I wanted to get into with you. And we didn't, but I am grateful for the time that you have allowed us to be here with you. And I want to bring you back with your permission, because we have enjoyed you. I have enjoyed you. I'm grateful to have been able to connect with you. I thank you again for being someone that showed your friendship even without even knowing me. You showed your friendship towards me, because I appreciate you.
Igual, papá. Del corazón.
Definitely. So, I want to bring you back, and I'm grateful. Please follow Sancista. Please go to his YouTube. He has, I think, over like 2 or 3 or God knows how many, 400, 500 videos, on YouTube. Sancista Brujo Luis. He is awesome. He has so many different, magical, advice and spells and different things. We didn't even get to the fact that we have a gentleman here that is addicted to the grimoires. Grimoires?
I love grimoires. Yes, I collect a lot of grimoires.
And I think I saw a video where you were speaking about that you were at some point in your life a Wiccan as well.
I was. I studied Wicca when I was little, when I was a teenager. After the loss of my grandmother, I was searching for myself again. And so living in New England, Massachusetts, Wicca is a witchcraft. Massachusetts is drenched in witchery. It's part of our history. So Wicca called me out for a while. And then after that, I started studying grimoire, ceremonial. I don't practice it. I love to study. I love to read.
But I studied it too because it's very vital to the practice of being a brujo, to being a
exactly.
warlock, to being a
Yes,
spiritual healer, grimoires are very important. You know,
very
so
important. They're
I
very
take from it. I take from it what's vital to be used
exactly,
for our practices. You know, so that's something that I would
exactly.
like to talk with you about. You know, in this
Hmm.
public forum. So I thank you. I
Definitely.
thank you a million times. I thank
Thank
you.
you.
You know, I'm very humbled by your presence here, and I hope warriors, let's give him a lot of hearts and a lot of praise. You know, to Sancista Brujo Luis. Follow him. This video is going to cut out in 40 seconds. I don't want to lose this video. I want to share it. But thank you so very,
Thank
very,
you.
very much. Very
Thank
much.
you. It was an honor. Fue un placer. Muchas gracias.
Igualmente, igualmente. Many blessings to you and all
Igual,
my
papi.
spiritual warriors. And here we are, over and out, my spiritual warriors.
Ciao.